So it's been 5 years. Can we get a green light, please? It's my favorite color. So 5 years since Abidjan in 2017, the 10th Europe-Africa Summit will take place in Brussels on the 17th and 18th February 2022. If the digital is a vector of opportunity in terms of jobs and innovation, it's also becoming a ground of influence from the main powers on the planet, which raises sovereignty issues, and this will be addressed by the French presidency of the European Union as well as by this conference. So we will hear from Mr. Roger Félix Adom, who unfortunately was unable to be with us because of a visit from the president of the Ivory Coast, but he is here online. If he can hear us, we might hear from him. We've also got Mrs. Russo from the European Commission, but first a question to Mr. Khalbous. According to your estimates and to other estimates, million French speakers by 2050, a majority of whom will be based in Africa, and yet Africa is subjected to growing geopolitical issues with the growth of the digital sector. What is your perception of the place of French language on the African continent? Well, it's a mixed picture, really. It depends which point of view you adopt. Demographically, the French language is developing tremendously, and we know that it will become one of the first languages in the coming years. However, at the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, we focus on the education and academic sector and on the youth. And what we see in young people is a mixed picture, in the sense that we see fewer opportunities brought by French language than in the past. There are objective and subjective reasons. Objective reasons are to do with the choice of strategic directions that were chosen by countries in terms of education. Many French-speaking countries are now turning towards other languages. There are also subjective reasons relating to the perception of French as a language. So our organization fully supports multilingualism. French language can only develop in a multilingual context. So we promote French language in collaboration with other languages, because cultural diversity is part of the DNA of the Francophonie. However, our part as an organization that supports French language in the academic world is to show all the opportunities that French language can bring to young people when they choose to study in French or to do their research in French. And the challenge is to show how useful it can be, to show the opportunities that come from mastering French language to develop a great career, including in the business world. Thank you, Mr. Khalbous. On the question of the relationship between Africa and Europe as twin continents after the Europe-Africa Summit, Mr. Erol, you started in your job just before the beginning of this COVID crisis that had a major influence on the relations between our continents. So what do we know about cultural relations between Europe and Africa and their evolution in this context? Yes, the Saison Africa event has been disrupted by the pandemic, but we still managed to hold 1,500 events, both live and online. And overall, if you look at all the events that took place, we've had over 4 million spectators. So these were events in the arts, science, in the tech sector and innovation. So we had a very broad spectrum of events, and the key objective was to showcase the creativity of the African continent and to contribute to changing perceptions of Africa in France and beyond. So this was a success despite challenging circumstances, but we believe that the Africa season needs to continue with very concrete actions in the cultural fields and beyond so that we can build on this momentum. This includes the agenda of the France-Africa Summit last April. So this Africa season really confirmed how important it was to rely on the civil society to promote innovation, creativity and imagination. This really was the key idea. So we want to build on this momentum to ensure that this empowerment dynamic continues and travels across the African continent. This must be at the heart of relations between France or Europe and the African continent. So we have a triple agenda in this context, the empowerment of the youth. This is very important, so we really value citizen-led processes. We will discuss the Saphir program later on. The second angle is the professionalization. For us, it's very important to support professional mobilities across Africa, as well as collaborations between African and European operators to promote innovation. So that's our second angle. And then our third angle is dialogue. It's very important to debunk misunderstandings and to help French-speaking voices to emerge. So we need to promote debates and develop regional dynamics that really allow the civil society to find its voice between Europe and Africa. Thank you, Mr. Hock from the French Institute. Of course, Angolé Fall, we wanted to pay a tribute to Angolé Fall, who's been a force of resistance within this Africa season in the very difficult context of this pandemic.
Le ministre Roger Félix Adom, est-ce que nous avons pu établir la connexion? Monsieur le ministre.
Mr. Minister, can you hear us from Abidjan? Yes, hello, I can see and hear you. Fantastic. I can hear you. Can we see the Minister, Mr. Adom? Well, in any case, we can hear you. Okay, perfect. We can see and hear you. Fantastic. So, Minister, your delegation is here with us. We have 15 Ivorian startups here with us. The head of the office is also here. The technical officer is here. Unfortunately, Mr. Adom was not able to join us today. He was called up by the president of the Ivory Coast at the last minute. We are very happy to be able to talk to you today, Mr. Adom. The Africa-Europe Summit in 2015 was in Abidjan. The head of the EU Commission proposed a plan for 15 million jobs in Africa. In your opinion, could you please tell us about how we are, what the picture is like in 2021, and what things will be like after the next Europe-Africa Summit in 2022, please? Good morning, Marseille. Hello to all of the participants who are at the Emerging Valley Summit 2021. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there with you in person. But fortunately, I am able to be with you online. Thanks to technology, I can see and hear you, even if I'm unable to be there live. So with regards to the partnership between Africa and the EU, Mr. Jean-Claude Juncker's speech outlined an ambitious plan of partnership between Africa and Europe. He said that Africa was a brotherhood for Europe. An important objective is to build a partnership between our two continents to enable Africa to face its demographic growth. By 2050, there will be over 2.5 billion inhabitants in Africa. Mr. Jean-Claude Juncker outlined 5 main areas. First of all, investments, creation of employment, investment in education, and strengthening job opportunities, corporate environments, and economic integration. In this plan, he outlined the opportunity for 10 million sustainable jobs with a specific focus on digital technology and education. The main points of this plan were to ensure that 30 million Africans would gain access to electricity thanks to sustainable energy plans, and 4 million people would benefit from improved networks with growth of discussions in the Erasmus program with more researchers, as well as programs to develop skills by 2027. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we were not able to fulfill this plan, completely at least. We hope that by 2022, the objectives, in part thanks to the French presidency of the EU, will be met, because the EU-AU partnership is very important, even despite the pandemic and the shrinking of world growth in 2020. We very much hope that 2022 will enable us to recover this plan and meet the objectives and fulfill the promises that were outlined. We are currently waiting to see what the economic situation will be like in 2022 with regard to this ambitious project. Will it become a reality? Thank you very much, Mr. Adom, with us live from Abidjan. So we've heard from Africa. Now we're going to hear from Brussels. Is Mrs. Maria Cristina Russo with us? Hello, Samir. Good morning. You're the head of international cooperation at the European Commission. In March 2020, the Commission adopted a global strategy for Africa, whereby research and innovation are outlined as an important part. What can you tell us about this between the two continents, and how can we showcase the subjects of innovation and research within the context of the relationship between Africa and EU? Thank you, Samir. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to be with you online for this 5th edition of Emerging Valley 2021. I hope that you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you. I'm delighted to be speaking in French today. It is a language that I love and that I find we don't speak often enough in European institutions. I hope that we will continue speaking more and more. With regard to the advances that we are looking at currently, I think that there is a lot to say. We can congratulate ourselves for what has happened in the sectors of research and innovation. These subjects are at the heart of the EU strategy with Africa. And on this basis, we launched a partnership cooperating with innovation between EU and the AU. SEMEA were part of this partnership. We have also developed a series of initiatives that I will talk about in just a minute. In addition to this, we have continued cooperating with the African Union for high-level political discussions in domains such as scientific research between the two continents, as well as food security, nutrition, energy, climate change, and innovation that we have introduced as an important element of the partnership between the European Union and the African Union. We have also continued to focus on e-health in sub-Saharan Africa. For the last 20 years, the IB-ICP partnership has existed, and that I'm delighted to say that we have just started new innovation programs. This healthcare cooperation program is even more ambitious and has become a partner of the global healthcare issue. Last year in July, after we came out of the first wave of COVID, ministers of research and innovation in the African Union and the EU helped us understand the aftermath and the current goings-on of the pandemic, and outlined what the next steps will be. The ministers came up with a very ambitious plan that included innovation and research. We have a transversal pole for Africa that aims to mobilize 350 million euros for 45 joint research projects between the EU and the AU. As I have to go soon due to the fact that we started a little bit late, I would just like to say that we are currently preparing some trial projects at the EU Commission that integrate innovation and research in countries such as India and in other continents. There is an agenda between the EU and the AU with concrete actions to ensure that these innovation partnerships are a lot more stable and sustainable. We're developing this agenda, which is part of a global package of investments that should be happening very shortly between the EU and the AU. We are also delighted to have the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who has acknowledged the importance of this partnership. I would just like to conclude by saying that at the EU we have developed a communications policy which is very important, called the Global Gateway Communication, which defines the action of communication outside the EU. And I'm also delighted to be able to say that the cooperation of innovation and research has led to developing digital technology and relationships between our two continents. This has been showcased in this domain. To diffuse the political message of the Global Gateway Communication Plan. Our agenda focuses on innovation, and as I just said, the next summits should talk about this in great detail. Thank you so much for all of the hard work that you have done, especially in this complicated context. Thank you so much, Mrs. Maria Cristina Russo. Delighted to have had you with us. I know that you have to leave. You have a commitment that is starting very shortly. We're going to come back to our participants on stage. We have a d'égal à égal partnership led by the EU Commission, and I would like to ask you a question, dear Zainab Messaoud, Managing Director of the DOT. You tell us about the ecosystem in Tunisia. Please tell us about this initiative and its history. How did you manage to start working at the DOT, and how is it now a essential pillar of the Tunisian ecosystem? Thank you so much, Samir. Let me just start by telling a little story. 8 or 9 years ago, we didn't have a lot in Tunisia. We were hardly talking about startups. We had very few companies that were managed by young people, not many innovative companies. The relationship with Europe is developing more and more today, but it has not been a very long time. So in terms of structures for microfinancing structures, mentoring, support, there was a little bit, but not that much. 9 years ago, the first co-working space called COVID opened in Tunis. This was really the starting block of the birth of an entire ecosystem. Everything happened and developed around COVID. It was lucky to be listened to and supported by a man who is here today with us, the Minister of Technology. And we also launched a second thing called the Startup Act, which officially launched in 2019. It really was a revolution for Tunisian startups. When you ask Tunisian startups about what they think about the Startup Act, the law is not revolutionary itself, because in Europe this was old news, but in Tunisia everything changed. It improved the ecosystem enormously. So the Startup Act law was a kind of a revolution in the history of innovative entrepreneurship in Tunisia. Let me just explain to you very quickly what it is. The Startup Act law helps young entrepreneurs with their flexibility and change, which has been an issue in the past. Previously, young innovative entrepreneurs found it very difficult to grow and develop. So there was this first community. What was specific and interesting about it is that it was co-built between the government and the youth, with the help of certain support structures, and it was a real there was a real organization between the incubators and the government, which adopted and accepted the idea of revamping the entire scene. Today, 5 years later, there is a fund of a fund, which is 20 million euros, which started out as 20 million euros and is now over 60 million euros. So this helps companies with their pre-seed, seed, and growth phases. We have a national strategy called Startup Tunisia, which supports young fledgling companies in Tunisia. and teaches them about the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in Tunisia. Of course, we have European partners that support us and accelerate the entire process. We have labeled over 600 startups with a high percentage of female-led entrepreneurs and companies. Could you tell us about the inspiration between the tech hub in Tunisia? What kind of message can you give to other entrepreneurs? The DOT is a public-private partnership which is built around certain places in the ecosystem. We are co-developing these in the long term. There is a real willingness to work together and to build something together. The DOT is a partnership between the Minister of Technology in Tunisia and with the support of technical aid in Europe with Africa, France. It is also a digital transformation center, and we also have private Tunisian funds for development. This project is therefore fantastic. What is so special about the DOT is that it supports entrepreneurs. We work on 3 main areas, so innovative entrepreneurship, transformation, and digital technology. Today we have over 2,900 square meters of premises in Tunisia, where universities, the government, support structures, NGOs, incubators, accelerators. So there's an entire ecosystem. You're absolutely right. There is a huge ecosystem that wants to work together and ensure that we can be more sustainable. So this example can really inspire others when we talk about collective intelligence, partnerships. So could you tell us about this subject, which you know very well, Safia? Ecosystems, entrepreneurs, how are they able to speak up to tell people about what is really happening on the ground? First of all, I would like to have a round of applause for Zainab Messaoud. It is really a pioneering project on the African continent. And I'm now going to hand over to Salim Khalbous, who is the director of the Association of Francophone Universities. You have developed very many e-health projects helped by digital technology. Can you tell us about the network of French-speaking incubators that you have been working with? I'd really like to know more about how your association has managed these projects, how has it funded them, and how have you had a real vision from a university perspective? Because I can see that you have a real entrepreneurial perspective in terms of innovation.
Yes, thank you for specifying this. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, this is an agency that's been around for 60 years, but it's changed a lot over time. Initially, this was an organization that focused on universities, and gradually it opened up, first of all, upstream to work with schools, secondary and primary education, and then opening up on vocational training as well, which is very important in emerging countries. And also we started focusing on employability, entrepreneuriat and professional integration. So our scope really developed a lot. So today we are talking about scientific francophonie, which means its integration within economic systems. Entrepreneurship has become a fundamental angle of development. It's part of our 5 key angles of development that have just been defined in our new strategy as of last September. And this confirms the entrepreneurial focus of university. We want universities that support national development policies and youth-centered policies. There are currently 1,000 member universities and research centers, which makes us the first academic network in the world. And out of these 1,000 universities, about 700 are based across the African and European continents. So we work beyond the the scope of French-speaking countries. We also promote cooperations between French-speaking universities and non-French-speaking. We work with tens of different countries, and the French language scientific space is very attractive. Entrepreneurship is at the heart of our strategy, student-led entrepreneurship in particular. However, we need to put a mechanism in place. We have competitions. We have a project called DEAL, which is a social entrepreneurship project supporting inclusive development. We do competitions for female entrepreneurs because we believe there aren't enough women in entrepreneurship. So we have targeted actions. We also have very innovative projects such as the entrepreneur student status that was launched as a pilot in Morocco, Tunisia and Lebanon. This was very successful, and it will be rolled out to 8 sub-Saharan Africa countries. So this is a status that's awarded to students who set up projects during their studies and who receive academic and professional support. This is a great support program that develops the students' chances of walking out of uni with a degree and with a successful business project. So these are innovations we are now pushing one step further because we want to structure these employability-focused initiatives with French language employability centers. We want to create 70 centers around the world, including 40 in Africa, by 2022. So these will be centers based in universities that support students before they graduate and before they get on the job market. We provide personalized support as well as pre-incubation support. We've observed that there's a high rate of failure in African incubators, and the missing link is the selection of profiles before the end of university and before entrepreneurs join the incubators. We have coaches supporting participants. We train people on entrepreneurial spirits, including taking initiatives, getting organized. But not everyone has the profile of an entrepreneur. So we want to go scouting for the right profiles and bring them to the incubators, including those that we support, such as the French language African incubator, which is developing very fast at the moment in Tunisia and around Africa. And then we by doing this, we can increase the success rate of our projects. About health, I'll try to be brief. We do call for projects. When COVID came in, it was, of course, a great surprise. We put out a first call for tenders that was worth 1 million euros. Because there was a lot of demand. We received almost 2,000 applications for funding from young people who are engineers, PhD students, who were working in labs, because this wasn't targeting institutions. We were targeting young people, youth clubs, labs, research centers, and we were amazed by the scope of the projects we received. So in 2021, we put out a second call for tenders for projects at 1.2 million. Today, we've gone beyond 2.5 million, and over 55 projects have received funding out of the 2,500 projects we received. What's interesting is that we've seen an evolution between the first and the second call for projects. During the first one, we had projects on developing materials to fight the disease. So we had 3D printed masks, gels, because they weren't available at the time. And then the second call was about developing decision-making tools with the support of new technologies or smartphones. For instance, a project for remote learning in Cameroon, about stress resilience in Congo, Benin, the Ivory Coast, innovative platforms to manage doctors' appointments in Guinea, a platform to raise awareness in Mali, the search for genomic markers in Senegal. We had lots of very innovative applications like geospatial identification of COVID-prone environments developed by a group in Algeria, remote medicine robots in Tunisia, a mobile app to improve medical functions in South Africa, a water monitoring system in rural areas to avoid contamination in Madagascar. So very diverse projects, many of them technology focused, but all of them were very much focused on the human as well, which goes hand in hand. So the perspectives in the health sector are extraordinary. So technology and the human is what we're about at Emerging Valley. Thank you very much, Mr. Halbous, from the university, the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie. Thank you for presenting this work. Now, Errol Oak, the managing director of the French Institute. We are welcoming a delegation working on the Saphir program. The Saphir program is a very ambitious project supporting social entrepreneurship and change makers in the northern part of Africa and the Middle East. It started in 2012 with a pilot project that was incredibly successful, the Saphir Lab, and this helped a new generation of new Mediterranean change makers to emerge in the Arab world. And this because of its longevity, this really showed that there was a true need on the ground. Now you've taken it a step further with the Saphir program. Can you tell us the objectives of the program and what results it brought about? I think it's a good way of illustrating a partnership between the European and the African continents, focusing on North Africa. So how can we look at concrete projects across the two continents? Yes, thank you. I'm very happy to see some of the beneficiaries of the program present here at Emerging Valley, which is a great place of convergence for us. This was initially an initiative launched by the French Institute, Saphir Lab, and its ambition was to support social entrepreneurship, to promote the youth-led projects for sustainable development, promoting access to culture and social change. So this was born 10 years ago during the Arab Springs, and the idea was to really trust the civil society in fostering change. Since then, we've really moved up to the next scale, thanks to the support of the European Commission. So today, the program is benefiting almost 1,000 young people in 9 countries of North Africa and the Middle East, with a budget of 7 million euros. So it's a large project that really built on the successes of the pilot project, Saphir Lab, and it's a great example of changing scales thanks to the support of the European Union. We support youth-led projects that come up with solutions to meet the major challenges of our societies in North Africa and the Middle East. These are innovative projects that help to raise awareness of human rights, that promotes the local heritage, and that advocate in favor of active and innovative citizenship. this type of innovation is also at the heart of Emerging Valley. So we have large resources. We have workshops to raise awareness on sustainable development. We train young people in advocacy. We do capacity building. We will soon have over 90 projects receiving support and being incubated and in some cases accelerated. And I really think these projects can make a difference in this context of economic and health crisis. Saphir is also about creating a lasting network, a very unique network in favor of sustainable development. We aim to lastingly transform the ecosystem of project development in North Africa and the Middle East, and we believe that the talent and creativity was already there, and we're building on this, which is why we work with local partners. I wanted to say hi to some of our colleagues, Labes in Tunisia, ANDD in Lebanon. Overall, we are supporting over 50 organizations in the south of the Mediterranean, including universities, incubators, civil society organizations, and they really are leading, supporting the projects and demultiplying them. I'm sure we will soon have some great success stories. We've only just started this autumn. So I'm sure if we come back here next year, we will have more stories about individual success stories. But again, we focus on the existing pool of talent in these countries, and we try to enhance it even further. Thank you. This should provide food for thought for the Europe-Africa Summit as well. Thank you, Mr. Ock. Zainab, I will come back to you, but first of all, Mr. Minister, I know that you have a very busy agenda, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to conclude. As soon as you started in function, you've been supporting the tech ecosystem in the Ivory Coast through the CEIVAR, which is the Federation of Ivorian Startups. Today, what is your strategy? Can you hear us? What is your strategy as a regional leader in the field of digital and innovative industries, and why is it important for you to be present here at Emerging Valley? And then how can we build on these recommendations to advocates at the Europe-African Summit? Thank you for this question. I would like to congratulate the CI20 for its dynamism and its entrepreneurial spirit. This is the Ivorian Federation of Startups that's making the Ivory Coast very proud. In the Ivory Coast, the state is supporting businesses, and the grounds for our development is the private sector. Our ambition is to support the private sector, to have a very dynamic private sector that can create value and create jobs. So we developed a strategy to accelerate the digital transition of the Ivory Coast and make the country a technological hub. The strategy has 7 pillars: digital infrastructure, digital services, cybersecurity, digital skills. And two important points for us: digital businesses and innovation. Innovation goes along with entrepreneurship. So just like they did in Tunisia, we are finalizing a hub for startups. That's another reason why I wasn't here today. This afternoon, I'm chairing the Government Council, which will be approving a program supporting startup businesses. And then I will be visiting the Parliament later on in January 22. So we need to get things moving, and we want to rely on the private sector. The Ivory Coast is a country of innovation. What we did last week with the CI20, we gave our startups a mission. So all the members of the CI20 are the true ambassadors for innovation in the Ivory Coast. Their objective is to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in the Ivory Coast. We have what we call innovative leaders who act as ambassadors. We want the Ivory Coast to be a country of innovation, and we want to make Africa proud in this field. So many startups in the Ivory Coast are exporting their know-hows in France and beyond. Our ambition is to support these businesses to ensure that these small businesses can grow and can, within the next 10 years, become Africa's major businesses. So I wanted to keep it short, but yes, you are definitely embodying these principles thanks to the Startup Act that you will be supporting at Parliament this afternoon. Thank you. So we are coming to the end of this roundtable. I would like to hear from you, Zainab. Your message for the French presidency at the Europe-Africa Summit. What would you like to say about female-led entrepreneurship? What form of advocacy would you like to see to promote this major force on the continent that's facing many challenges and that can truly become an accelerator of the economic convergence between our two continents? Before we talk about female-led entrepreneurship, I wanted to add a few things. Africa is 1.5 billion individuals. 60% of the population is under 30. Africa is the future. It's the talent of tomorrow. Africa is the future. And Africa has natural resources. It has growth. It's generating new startups. And it's revolutionizing the digital transformation. I believe that Africa is facing a number of challenges. Africa needs capital, it needs expertise and skills that Europe now has and could bring to us. We've got 2 months to prepare for the summit, and we have basically 2 months to get married, so we should make it a fast marriage. Otherwise, we're going to miss the opportunity. So this is a project that embodies the partnership between Europe, France, Germany as member countries, and Tunisia as on the African side. And then within DOT, we've set up a program called DOT Landing. This is a hub for African startups. They can benefit from free hosting for 6 months at the DOT in order to research their market, to study their potential in Africa and their export potential. So this is the entrepreneurship side of things. I wanted to stress this because it's important. When you are in a bus station over here, there's a roof and there's screens and everything works. When you go to our countries, there isn't even a roof in a bus stop. And I think the digital is the most cost-effective way of making things happen. It's bound to transform Africa in the most efficient way possible. And we are here to contribute to this transformation. We need Europe for its capitals, for its expertise and its know-hows. And what we have to bring to the table is our youth, our energy, and our potential. Now on to women. So women, African women are very strong. They're very present. They are participating in Africa's economic, social, and political life. So if we keep pushing this advocacy to ensure that women have access to more opportunities, to ensure that they are systematically integrated into the boards of large businesses, we have this problem in governments. In Tunisia, one of the best laws in favor of women, but statistics show that out of the 28% of startups, most of them have a mixed management team. And then if you dig into the data and look at the figures in more detail, there's only 4% of startups that are led by women. So we need to keep lobbying, if needs be, to ensure that the rights are there, the law is there, but we need society to change so that women are more encouraged to feel comfortable, to have access to childcare. I think this is where the advocacy needs to take place. We need to ensure that women have access to favorable conditions to be in a position to take initiatives. I think you will be able to rely on the support of institutions like the AUF and the French Institute through the Saphir program and other programs to consolidate these Mediterranean ecosystems. Thank you, Zainab, for this word of conclusion. And this is announcing the roundtable at the end of this morning, which will be dedicated to female entrepreneurship. Please give a round of applause to Minister Roger Félix Adom, who joined us from Abidjan. Thank you, Mr. Minister. I'll see you very soon. Thank you to Maria Cristina Russo, who was with us from Brussels and shared the vision of the European Commission. Mr. Simral Bous, thank you for joining us and presenting the entrepreneurial revolution of the IUF. Thank you, Mr. Erol Hock, for presenting the Saphir program and representing the French Institute. Thank you, Mrs. Zainab Messaoud, the Managing Director of the DOT. All these recommendations will be part of the White Book of Emerging Valley, which will be published in time for the Europe-Africa Summit. Now, I would like you to welcome our next panel, but first of all, we are going to take a photo.